Captain America the First Avenger is one of my favorite movies from Phase 1. I was incredibly excited to watch it the other day as it had been a long week and I need a break. My weekend was pretty busy, but I was able to pack it into my schedule because I really didn't want to miss a day in the rewatch, and I really do want to talk about this movie. So, Captain America, the First Avenger. It's a movie directed by Joe Johnston, starring Chris Evans, Haley Atwell, Hugo Weaving, Stanley Tucci, Sebastian Stan, and Tommy Lee Jones. Set in the World War II era, this movie is about Steve Rogers, a kid from Brooklyn turned super soldier Captain America. Donning the red, white, and blue, he must stop the Red Skull, who has a plan for world domination or something. Whatever, I don't know. When I saw the movie in theaters back in 2011, I liked it alright. I talk about little child me a lot and how he loved the previous movies and was looking forward to them, but can you believe that little child me's least favorite Avenger back then was Captain America? He seemed like the lamest one of them all. The movie made him seem alright, but man, he was really the most losery Avenger. I mean, maybe Hulk and Thor had bland-ish movies, but never in a million years did I think I'd be getting behind Captain America of all people. Well, now we're in 2018. Times change, tastes change, you know the drill. This movie I adore. No, it's not perfect, but it's got a lot of heart. And a lot of that is down to Chris Evans, who absolutely provides an excellent performance as Steve Rogers. The cast overall is very good, but he is the main man. Most of the praise regarding acting goes to him. He sells the idea of him being a good man, even as a scrawny dude. I buy that he's got a heart, so when he gets buff, I'm rooting for him. Speaking of him getting buff, I cannot talk about the positives of this movie without mentioning the visual effects, particularly that of shrinking Chris Evans' body down for the first act of the movie. I remember going out of the movie and wondering how they did the effect of giving the scrawny kid muscles for the entirety of the film. I was so baffled, and the movie really expanded on what visual effects could do for film in my mind. I'm seriously impressed by how it looks, as it still holds up to date. I've watched clips of how they really did the effects, and it seems like a lot of work went into this aspect of the film. I've got to praise everyone involved in that regard. Good job to the stunt double, the editing house, the cameramen, the actors, to everyone for wanting to provide the film a genuine feel that most productions could so easily overlook nowadays. The First Avenger is a period piece of sorts, and it does that well. I'm completely sold on the setting of the movie, and the World War II setting actually works. It's not boring or dull as some movies would make it out to be, and it provides an entertaining look that most superhero films lack. For me, the first act of the movie is the strongest. Seeing Steve struggle before even becoming Captain America was genuinely heartwarming, and it did a good job of capturing my interest. How the movie ends is also something I really liked. I won't go too much into spoilers if anyone watching hasn't seen the movie yet. I mean, if you haven't seen the movie yet, what are you doing though? This came out in 2011. But yeah, the movie's ending packs an emotional punch. I like it. Now on to stuff I didn't like so much. The second act is a little dull. A lot of the potentially cool aspects of Captain America are just glossed over and skipped. Steve being the awesome Captain America is merely implied in this movie, and apart from the third act, it's something that they just brushed over for some reason. Which is a shame because I really feel like there's a lot of cool stuff they could have done with the super soldier in World War II. Mild spoilers for my next gripe, but I really didn't like the whole love triangle thing with Natalie Dormer. I mean, it only lasted for a small part of the movie, but man, that was weird. The villain is also pretty weak. Again. Hugo Weaving plays the Red Skull, and though he looks the part and does well enough, he's just written so poorly. All he wants is world domination again, and it's getting pretty boring this time around. It's just so bland, and the Red Skull is one of the weakest villains in the MCU, which is kinda sad seeing as he's one of the more important villains in the comics. In general though, this is a competently made movie. Like I mentioned earlier, this is one of my favorite movies from Phase 1. It has a good story with good characters and did a good job in keeping Marvel's reputation up for making quality films. For that reason, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I debated giving it an 8, But in the end, I felt that was a little too high. A little more would have gotten it there though. So yeah, I remember 2011 being a time when people were still questioning how movies based on Thor and Captain America could actually be done. It was a time when people were still unsure about the MCU, as it still seemed like a risky venture. However, 2011 ended with two very competent movies from Marvel. The ending of Captain America sets up what was their biggest project at the time. The MCU had made it this far, from Iron Man to Captain America. And going into 2012, the question on everyone's minds was whether or not they could stick the landing. Did they? I mean, we already know the answer. But we'll address that next week.